I have some concerns regarding level 100 in Genshin Impact. Let's talk about it. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. So, the Not Cry livestream generally announced a lot of interesting things, and I personally am very excited for the region. There's a lot that I'm interested in, I personally like the look of the region itself, and I'm very intrigued by the cast of characters. However, there is one thing that has undeniably caught everyone's attention, and understandably so. We're gonna be able to get our characters to level 100 now, first from level 90 to 95, and then from 95 to 100. Sounds interesting on paper, might cost a lot of resources, but it means that our accounts are going to be better on the whole now, and it'll help us keep up with HP inflation. However, we're not actually going to be spending any Mora or XP books on this, not at all. We're just going to be able to send them straight to 95 and 100, and we do this by using up a very special little material, a special type of Stella Fortuna that you can only get if you get another copy of a character that you already have at C6. So, I think you can already see the problem. No, this does not increase the level cap of your entire account. Only individual characters can go up to 95 and then level 100. So if you even get the opportunity to have one of these Stella Fortunas, you have to be super selective as to who you're going to be increasing the base stats of. And this is a very relevant increase. More base stats is a very big deal. But this is basically something that's only really going to be accessible to whales or people who have been playing for a very long time. This is because if you've been wishing on banners for a long time now, then you likely already have some standard 5 stars at C6, assuming that you're unlucky enough. If you're someone that wins most of your 50-50s, then you might not even be in this position, but I'd say that if you have average luck and you've been playing for a couple of years now, then you will be in that position. So this is mostly geared towards older players, I would say. Because if you lose 50-50 to that character again, then you get to have a free Stella Fortuna. Or if you're a Giga Whale, you can just constantly pull copies of the same character that you already have at C6 and farm Stella Fortunas for your account, thus allowing you to level 100 most of your characters and giving you quite the advantage. So, why is this an issue? Well, for starters, it's very inaccessible for basically anybody who's just starting out, and even if you are a long-term player, there is still a very clear advantage that whales have, because if they're willing to spend enough money, then they can level 100 basically their entire relevant character roster. Whereas if you're somebody that only has a couple of standard 5 stars at C6, you still gotta hope that you're actually going to lose to that respective 5 star on your next 50-50 loss. And shoot, you don't really want to lose your 50-50, but if you do, then you're gonna hope it's that particular character, and if you don't get them, well then that's a Stella Fortuna wasted. I understand that this does make losing the 50-50 to a character that you already have a C6 of not as bad as before, but consider this. If you have a standard 5 star at C6, this anniversary is one of the few times where you're going to be able to guarantee getting this special material, because you can then select that standard 5 star from the selector, and then there you go. But otherwise, you're basically just hoping that it works out. And if endgame content starts to be heavily balanced around having level 100 characters, endgame is not really going to be accessible anymore. And this is a shame because Genshin used to be generally very friendly when it came to their endgame requirements. And if this level 100 situation ends up being something that they incorporate into their balance in the future, then it's very likely that we might see a reality in which a lot of us aren't going to be able to clear floor 12 at some point. Or if Abyss remains relatively untouched, then this is definitely being geared towards Whales and Stygian Onslaught. That is already a game mode that wants you to have very highly invested characters in order to obtain the weapon skins. So Genshin's already dabbled in locking certain cosmetics behind a very, very high barrier to entry. And this here is just seeming to continue on that trend, except this is more concerning, because this isn't a cosmetic. This is a very substantial thing. A level cap increase isn't small. I really need to emphasize that that is quite a substantial thing to be locking behind a constellation barrier. Literally the only way that they can make this work is if it's a redundant increase. And if it's not a redundant increase, then they need to add some sort of way to where most players are able to access this, because this realistically just isn't going to be something that people are going to be able to do often. I don't think people would necessarily be against a level cap increase on its own. HP is going up, endgame is getting harder. I think most people would have rather had it where we can ascend our characters again, it just costs a lot resin-wise. Sure, it would have been annoying, and it definitely wouldn't have been a perfect system by any means, but I think most people would have rather had that, as opposed to this essential paywalling. And the fact that the avenue is even there in the first place, where you can just pull a ton of copies of one character to level 100 your entire account, it just feels like a bit of a shame. It's honestly quite unfortunate, because I think that most of Not Cry's offerings do look really good. The region is beautiful, the characters for the most part are beautiful, I really like all of their designs. But even if I'm very excited for this, I can't really look past this level 100 situation, And there's definitely going to be people that are going to get one or two if they're older players, and it's going to be about prioritizing who to use it on. But it's undeniable that this has to be the worst possible way that they could have implemented having level 100 characters. I feel like that this is something that was going to happen eventually, but adding it through means of whaling? I don't know, man. And I understand that perhaps it's not going to be balanced around whales, but it's going to be balanced around older players. Essentially, people who have lost a ton of 50/50s before, who already have these standard 5 stars at C6. And in that case, we just need to see that balancing reflected in the endgame content. Abyss and all of the sort needs to still be clearable by level 90 characters. We cannot see level 100 becoming the new standard. If it becomes the new standard, Genshin Endgame is basically dead. And to be honest, I wouldn't blame someone for thinking that Genshin Endgame is already dead. For some people, Stygian Onslaught was basically the last straw. Locking the weapon skins behind wanting you to play C6 characters was already quite a strange move. But this is something else entirely, because it directly impacts gameplay. This directly causes issues with Genshin's gameplay. I'm gonna see where things go from here on. I'm very excited to explore Nordcry and check out everything it has to offer, but we'll see what direction Genshin's endgame goes in. Because as it currently stands, this is just not looking good. I mean, okay, there's the slim chance that this might actually not be as bad as we think, but I don't blame anyone for a second for raising their eyebrow and being very suspicious at this, because it is a seemingly terrible change. We have never had paywalled levels before. If they really insist on sticking to this particular system, then the main way that they can fix it, it has to be made more accessible somehow. You need to be able to get it through dailies. You need to be able to get it through clearing floor 11, thus giving you the resources necessary to go ahead and clear floor 12. That sort of thing. It needs to be able to be given to you in a more natural way, or maybe even give it to people through side quests that refresh every week or something. Because I think, as it currently stands, this is just not really the right way to go about it. And that's just my personal opinion. I really don't like the implementation of this. I do seriously hope they revisit it. It was already really weird that they're making the farming materials whenever you want thing limited. That was a huge gripe that I had because there is genuinely no excuse for them to make it limited. That's just really stupid. I don't know if it's gonna refresh every patch or if it's just an anniversary thing, but it seriously shouldn't be a limited thing. It should be for every single patch permanently going forward. It's just kind of dumb that that's limited. But this on top of that, man, it's just a shame. Level 100 characters and farming materials every day sounds amazing, but these implementations, they're just not up to par. We shouldn't genuinely be living in a timeline where having certain constellations is going to be able to help you level up your characters more. That just sounds terrible on paper. I think it's very clear how bad this sounds. It's awful. And this is really crossing the line in my opinion, because it affects gameplay. This isn't a cosmetic thing like Stygian Onslaught, which was already bad. That was already bad, but this literally directly affects gameplay. I do think Nordcry genuinely has some interesting things to offer. I'm really interested in seeing the story and such. I am excited. However, gameplay-wise, I don't know, man. I'm really not a fan of this whole level 100 through constellations. It gives whales such an easy advantage. It is very clear as day that they can essentially get whales to have an excuse to always pull on banners, because now they can pull infinite copies to get infinite Fortunas, and there's always that little incentive to go and pull just that bit more, unfortunately. Granted, this is one of those things where only time will tell. It's very obviously bad to me now. I don't really think we need to wait 6 months into the future to denote that this is a very bad change, and that if things stay as they are now and this is the new system going forward, it's just extremely unfriendly. I am being completely genuine when I say that I'm really excited for the lore and the characters. I think the actual region itself looks super duper nice, so Nordcry itself excites me, but these gameplay changes, man, they're just... This has to be the worst possible way that they could have went about it. I feel like there was 1,000 different ways that they could have done this, like at least giving it through weeklies, through bounties, through dailies. There were even Teapot if they really wanted to make use of the currency there more. But they had to go for constellations, probably the least accessible way for anyone to get these Stellar Fortunas. And keep in mind, this is strange, because now people who win their 50/50s a lot, because there are people like that that exist, I have talked to numerous people who win many 50/50s in a row, well, they're also not really going to be able to get this material now, because they just don't really have any 5 stars at C6, not even their standard ones. This is an abysmal situation where everyone loses. Whales lose because now they're going to feel very pressured and incentivized to always pull to max out level 100 all their characters. Regular players are losing out, even if they've been playing for a long time, because this literally just depends on how unlucky or lucky you've been throughout your Genshin playing career, and the new players just aren't going to be able to access any of this. Very disappointing change. Would be very cool in concept, but I fear the execution of it. What do you think about all of this? Is this acceptable, or is this also your last straw? Let me know down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Hopefully this video was able to tell you why I'm personally concerned about level 100 in Genshin Impact. This has been Juice, signing out. And damn, it looks like I'm picking Jean from my selector thing then, since I already have her at C6.